You watch 100 Mile Drive, a channel where I help you to buy the right car, and today I have 2024 Jeep Wrangler 4xe Sport S plug-in hybrid that has a combine of 375 horsepower and 470 pound-feet of torque. And this is exactly the car most people are shopping for. With MSRP starting at $50,000, you can get it as a lease special for less than $400 a month if you also find additional club memberships and forums. And guess what? Many people are buying this for a daily commute. And the biggest question I have, how does this car feel to drive, considering that it's a capable off-roader? And if you're watching 100 Mile Drive for the first time, well, this is the channel where I say, before you buy a car like this or any other car, don't settle for a 5-minute test drive at a dealership. Instead, rent it for a day from places like Turo and drive it for at least 100 miles on city streets, highway, and twisty roads to be able to answer the biggest question I'm answering on this channel: how does it feel to drive? So I'm gonna drive this Jeep on these 3 different terrains, and at the end, I'll tell you who would be the right person to buy this car. Let's go. And first, a super quick walk around this 2024 Jeep Wrangler 4xe. Now, this is the car that has love or hate relationship. Now, some people absolutely love it, and there are a lot of fans of this Jeep Wrangler, and some people just hate it. They don't like how it looks. Now, I personally love how it looks. It's like a mini tank, and it looks, I think, absolutely fantastic. Now, this Wrangler Sport S rides on the super comfortable 255/60 R20 tires. Now, this is the car you want to get if you're looking for comfortable Wrangler or Sahara. You definitely don't want to get Willys or Rubicon, as they ride on bigger, knobbly tires. The side looks very classy. This one has a soft top that is retractable manually. Yeah, but I like that option of having convertible. And I like that Jeep Wrangler is all about removing stuff and customizing it like a transformer. Now, overall, like I said, I love how this Jeep looks. The only weird thing I find, why is the charging port on this side when most curbside charging is on the right side? So I think that should be moved on the other side. Now let's quickly do a door sound check. Very unique to the Wrangler. Love it. All right, now let's get on the inside and do a interior quality check. All right, before I get on the inside, I wanted to show you what this roof looks like. I just kind of unlatched it and threw it up. So it kind of throws up like this, and then I guess you just manually put it down like this. Nothing bad, but looks kind of funny. But of course, you can pay extra and get the actual convertible soft top. So getting on the inside. So I wanted to talk about the interior quality. It's all hard plastic, but very well molded. And I think, they're doing a great job, and I don't think it's easily scratchable like you see in like Toyotas. So let's look here. Again, all hard plastic. This piece slightly moves, but it's not too bad. Overall, love this new design, this 12.3-inch screen. Let's start this car. There's no engine start because it's a plug-in hybrid. I think the screen looks absolutely great here, gorgeous. Some stitching here. I remember I rented Sahara 4 years ago, and this was plastic piece here. Now there's some stitching here. It looks pretty cool. Overall, this car looks very unique, and it looks fantastic. And this is what your open air experience looks like, your convertible experience. Some speakers here, and even for the rear passengers, you can see right here, and this is me right here. And yes, I definitely like it. It's very iconic. This is the steering wheel. Now let's go ahead and drive it and see what this Wrangler actually feels like to drive. And first, I'm gonna drive this Jeep Wrangler 4xe in the city. Now, I already test drove this Wrangler on all different terrains, so this is just me now recording a video and telling you what does this car feel like to drive. So I already built a connection with it, and you should do the same as well. So I'm gonna throw it in D. I am in the hybrid mode. I'm not using a high regen just yet. We'll do that a little later. Now, let's go ahead and floor it. All right. And see. Ooh. And you know what? It's very adequate power. Now, this car 0 to 60 is about 6.7, 6.8 seconds roughly. But let me tell you this, it is fast enough for a Jeep Wrangler. Now, this is the car where you don't have a tendency to go fast, okay? These are the type of cars you don't want to drive really fast. You just don't want them to be slow. And this Wrangler by no means slow. It's not slow at all. So here's a stop. Let's stop and Go again. Just a quick acceleration. All right, off we go. Yeah, the first gear, it kind of slightly sluggish, and then second gear is where you get your boost. Like you start getting like a really good boost of that torque. As you know, it's a 470 pound-feet of torque. Now, I was thinking like, you know, people, enthusiasts should get just a V6 naturally aspirated or V8 and like ignore all this nonsense like a 4-cylinder engine. But you know what? I don't mind it, especially most people who are buying this. And by the way, 38% of people, this is a statistic, buying this 4xe model. All right, one more time. So a lot of people buying this for commute, and the fact that it has a 22 or 21 miles of electric range. And I like it. I like it. Today I drove it a lot on the highway, in the city, in traffic. And I like the hybrid mode where it drove at places on pure electric motor, especially in traffic. That's where you want to drive more. Plus you get that quick pull in traffic. You know how you want to change lane and quickly overtake someone. So it has a little quick pull. And it looks more effortless in electric only mode. And when needed, the engine kicks in. Or of course, if your commute is fairly short, you can just drive all electric. So one more time, quick pull. Yeah, it's fine. One thing to know, this car is 5,000 pounds, like 5,100, I believe. So it is heavy. It definitely feels heavy. Now the overall feel is like you're driving like a mini tank with your long hood, very commanding view. Now your windshield is almost like, you know, straight compared to most cars. It definitely feels commanding, and I like this experience, you know, it's pretty unique. All right, next thing, let's talk about steering. Now steering is something I expected it to be on the heavier side. Instead, it's on the lighter side. It's actually very kind of light steering. It doesn't feel loose, you know, it has a point of correction. Like if you do this, it doesn't pull left or right immediately, but it's pretty sensitive. Like it responds pretty well to what you want to do. But I wish they had a mode where, let's say on highway, faster speeds, it tightens up and, you know, gives you that tighter sense of control. Especially we're gonna drive this beast on the twisty roads to see how safe this car, if somebody breaks in front of you, like can you overtake that car? So we're gonna, you know, put a little bit more to the stress and kind of see how would it behave in a more dangerous situation, right? That's where I wish the steering was a little bit tighter, but we'll see and talk about that a little bit later. So overall, it's not bad. It's definitely easy to drive this in the city, running your local errands. By the way, guys, the only way to feel in the car, that's how, you know, I can feel in and see if this car fits my personality, is if I spend time with it. When I go to grocery shopping, when I go to, you know, drive on the highway, when I take my spouse with me, you cannot get any of this on your local dealership test drive. This is exactly why you should spend a day with this car, drive it for at least 100 miles, and that's where your personality will see if this is a car that fits it. You know, you'll see and be like, no, this is not for me. Or you'll be like, yes, I can totally get this car, I'll enjoy it. And then if you buy it for family, you'll see if your family enjoys it. Now let's talk about the suspension of this car. That's the most important thing about this Jeep Wrangler. How does suspension feel like? Now, suspension in this car will give you different kind of feelings, and that's why you have to spend more time with this car. In one way, if you're test driving it at the dealership on a very smooth road, like here in California, let's say in Orange County, where roads are really good, it'll be very smooth, it'll be flowy, it'll feel like, wow, it's a very cool, nice Jeep to drive. But let's say you start hitting imperfections, and that's what I'm gonna do right now on my favorite Tampa Avenue, and I'll tell you what it feels like on bumpy roads. All right, now I'm driving it on my favorite Tampa Avenue, a bumpy road, and let me tell you this Jeep is a body on frame and it has a rear axle. And what happens is when you drive on this imperfection roads, the whole body kind of reacts. So the car is slightly dancing a little bit, okay? It does it very confidently. It doesn't do anything like abnormal, but you should be ready that it has a little bit different experience where if a wheel hits the imperfected road, the other wheel also responds, kind of the whole basically body responds to everything it does. It's just fairly well tuned and balanced where it feels confident, but nevertheless there's no like soaking the bumps. There's no that gliding motion over the bumps. It just kind of boom 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 kind of goes on top of it. And when you hit bigger bumps, bigger potholes, it almost feels like you have no suspension because it just reacts pretty harsh. And in some cases, when you go over, like when they're fixing the road, the pavement, and there's a lot of weird stuff. So when you go over that very weird looking, broken pavement, this Jeep will like do a jiggle, like kind of dance. Now you're not gonna lose your control. You're not gonna lose you're just supposed to go straight over it, but it'll react with its entire body to this. So you kind of should be okay with this type of a driving experience. It's not horribly bad. It's just not something you will experience in any other car, any other Toyota that you used to drive. So if you're jumping from your Toyota, whatever, RAV4 or Highlander, this is a totally different experience. And while it feels commanding, it feels like you are very well protected in this car. It feels like there's a lot of stuff underneath you, so you feel safe that way. It's just the suspension doesn't react the same way like your normal car does. Part of it because of the rear axle, second part it's heavy, and also it's an off-roader, right? So it's not supposed to respond the similar way. Now let me jump in my local neighborhoods to see how easy it is to, run the errands. All right, and then jumping in my local neighborhoods here, just to see what does it feel like driving it on like a local streets. And there's a hump right here. Oops, left turn. That was a very weird motion there. So overall, I mean, it's easy to drive this car in your local neighborhoods, like you go in for the groceries, pick up kids. At first, it may look a little weird because the motions of this Jeep slightly different than the regular car, like a regular crossover, because it's a heavy car, heavier car. Also, it overall feels a little different. But once you get used to the size, this commanding look of this Jeep, like how it handles everything, then it becomes kind of easy to steer and maneuver and brake. But one thing, I would not drive this car aggressively. Like when you drive it aggressively, when you drive it fast, when you do, those quick things that, let's say, I can do in my X3 BMW. This car starts doing, you'll hear the tire screeching, you'll hear, it'll feel like it is a bit stressed out. So this is not what Jeeps are for. Jeeps are for just a normal drive, comfortable drive overall. But nothing overly like crazy. Like don't go crazy with this car. That's not the right car for you. All right, now let me go ahead and drive it on the highway and see what does it feel like driving it on the long trip. And I'm about to merge the highway, driving more on this imperfected roads. And it's pretty good. Like once you spend more time with it, you're actually gonna get used to how it handles the bumps, and it's gonna be totally fine. It's just a matter of getting used to on a car that is body on frame with the rear axle. After that, it's normal. But if, let's say you have some back issues, you're sensitive, this is definitely not a car for you. Like hitting on ramp, let's go. Yeah. So the initial pull is not as strong, but once it hits on the second gear, then you feel the torque, like it's very torquey. Now another thing, let's see what the mid-range power, let's say I'm here flooring. Yeah, there's a little delay, but it's not bad actually. It's not bad at all. Let me change a lane. Let's do it one more time. So floor it. Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. It's pretty normal for normal, automatic transmission. Also, there's no like a major lag. So let's say, I need to overtake car and quickly go left. Yeah, there is a delay, of course. There's like a second delay, but it doesn't look abnormal. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is sound insulation, and of course, People who know Jeeps, they say there's no sound insulation in this car. That is because it's an off-roader, you know, and there shouldn't be, right? So let me quickly record this and I can share this information. All right, so it's a 90.8. This is, or 82.9. This is the highest I've ever seen. Okay, it's showing 82.9 right now. Wow, this is the highest I've ever seen in a car. But again, this is not a car for sound insulation. So if you are traveling in this car, commuting on highway, be ready. This car, you're gonna hear everything. You're gonna hear a wind noise hitting the cabin, hitting the soft roof. The hard roof will be a little bit better. So I can imagine when it's raining, you're probably gonna have a hard time talking to your, you know, passenger next to you, because overall there's a lot of crosswind. You can hear your cars. Yeah, so you should be okay with it. You know, if you're okay with this, hearing the nature, the cars, the freeway, everything, then this is fine. Now the next test I'd like to do again is to see if we can overtake cars on the highway. And yes, this car, torque wise, it's a lot of torque. It almost feels like I'm driving in convertible because the roof is closed, but I kind of want to talk louder. It's getting pretty loud here on the highway. Yes, it has a lot of torque, so you can easily overtake cars on the highway. Now, as far as stability on the highway, like I said, I wish the steering wheel was a little tighter, because this way, when it's super light, you kind of want to, like, you know, keep your both hands, or of course you can drive with one hand, but it's just easier when the steering is a little tighter just to hold it in one lane. But overall, it's very stable, very solid. It just stays in one lane. It does rock here and there a little bit when you hit the bumps on the highway at the higher speeds, but it's very stable, very solid, so you don't have any moments or feelings that this car is not safe or you can lose control or whatever. So I think for the longer commutes, this Jeep is absolutely fine. All right, so now I'm going to the twisty roads, and that's exactly where we're gonna see what happens to the Jeep if we were to put it a little bit more to the stress. Let's find out. And now we're gonna drive Jeep Wrangler 4xe on the twisty roads. So the reason why we bring the car on the twisty roads is we kind of want to listen to the orchestra, right? This is where we get to listen to all the instruments, suspension, brakes, acceleration, steering, everything put a little bit more to the stress. That's how the car opens up, and we get to see, is it even safe? Like, what happens in the dangerous situations? Like, how safe this car will behave. And overall, we gain more confidence. That's how we build better connection with the car. All right, enough. First corner approaching. All right, let's see. Now, I already drove this Jeep Wrangler here. Now this is the time for me to share. And now, it's funny, like, it does pretty well, actually. It almost feels like I told this Jeep Wrangler, hey, we're gonna drive now on the twisty roads. And it told me, roger that. Because it feels more connected on the road. Despite this being a body on the frame, having a rear axle, it does a little bit rocking motion, but overall suspension handles pretty well. Now, one thing I noticed though, the limit of this car is about 45 miles per hour, meaning anything above that, the rear will start sliding, and that's where you're getting in a territory where things will feel uncomfortable, like things will feel not as safe. So, meaning in the city, if somebody brakes in front of you, you will know what to do. Like, you'll be able to overtake the car, and your Jeep will hold really well in place. Now, on the highway, you're gonna take your chances. If something dangerous happens, then at that, like 65 miles per hour, it might feel, like I said, unsafe in that moment. But overall, acceleration feels pretty decent. Well, we're going downhill, so we're putting more pressure. We don't even need to go fast. Brakes feel pretty solid as well. Also, I'm using high regen here. So the brakes feel like they kind of press the car from the top. There's a little bit ducking forward, but it's kind of normal. Now here's the corner. Let's approach this corner. Yes, it's good, it's good. But we're not going fast at all. We're going fairly slow, I would say. In this car, it kind of feels like we're going faster because, you know, we're carrying so much mass here. It's like driving a tank on a twisty road. But kudos to Jeep. I think they've done a tremendous job because for this car, it handles pretty well. This is an off-roader, right? We're not supposed to be driving it on the twisty roads. But nevertheless, you know, if you live in California or places where you have mountain roads, you can still, in fact, even enjoy driving it here because, you know, it does just fine. Just don't drive it aggressively. This is not a car to drive fast. This is not a car where you want to test the limits because it does have a little bit of rocking, a little bit of a dancing. It all feels safe, but all up until certain limit. Like above certain speed limit, things will quickly feel unsafe. And I haven't tried it, and I don't recommend anyone to try it as well because this car is not designed for that. So you don't want to find out. But after driving it here on twisty roads, there's another corner. This gives me more confidence. Now I know what this Jeep is capable of. Now I know that this heavy machine is capable. Like, you know, I can toss it around. I shouldn't be worried about any rocking motions. If I pull it left, right, I know it'll correct just fine. It'll stay in place. It has actually 255 wide tires, which really help, by the way, this Jeep to stay in the lanes, you know, hold the ground basically. So overall, this is the end of the twisty roads where I usually slow down even more. And let me tell you this, I enjoyed this car. Even though this is not my BMW X3 M40i, which is capable of doing things like this, but nevertheless, this does not feel unsafe. That's my point here. And after driving it here, I am more confident now. I understand this car more. And now let me go ahead and summarize it and tell you, should you buy this car for the commute, and who would be the right person to buy this car in general? Let's find out. All right, guys, I just finished driving this Jeep in the city, highway, and twisty roads. And let me tell you this. Now let's discuss who is the right person to buy this car, drive it, and would you buy this car for just a daily commute? First of all, after spending a day with this car, I do feel a little bit tired. So that's part of it because it's not a, you know, soft, cushy, mushy car. It is still a firmer car, right? It's, you know, it's an off-roader, right? It's built for off-road. So it's a little bit of firmer kind of ride. And also the seats are on the firmer side as well. I didn't mention about the seats in the beginning, but they're supportive. You know, I actually like cloth seats that this Sport S has. But definitely, if you're considering this car, you got to spend more time with it. This is the type of a car that grows on you. You're either gonna like hate it at the end of the day, or you're gonna say, okay, okay, yes, I like it. I can definitely drive this every day. So you totally want to spend more time with this car. So the person who would buy this car is someone who, of course, a fan of Jeep. Let's not talk about the fans because they love this Jeep for, you know, off-roading. And if you're that type of a person, then of course, then you should get a wheelies or you should get a Rubicon. Now, Sport S, high altitude, those are built obviously more for commute, you know, for like cruising and some off-roading, as they don't have the locking diff and all that kind of stuff. But nevertheless, it is still same heavy machine, and it still has that firm kind of ride, and especially on the bigger bumps, you feel it. So you should not be an aggressive fast driver. That's for sure. Like if you are that type of a person, this car is not for you. Comfort is not the main thing about this car. It has comfort, don't get me wrong. It's just the car on the firmer side. Other than that, I totally think you can buy this for commute. I love the hybrid part in this car. At first I thought I'm not gonna like it, but I love it because after spending a day with the car, driving in traffic, highway, city, I like what hybrid does. It actually does really well turning off the engine in traffic where it actually would waste a lot of gas. Just make sure you charge this car, and I think it does a fantastic job. Or even in EV mode. Also switching between the electric engine and gasoline engine is okay. It's not seamless. but it's done pretty all right, I would say. I think we'll see better newer generations of Jeeps that'll go like 40, 50 miles, and it'll be more seamless, the transition. But even this is not bad. So I think I recommend this Jeep for commute. Let me tell you this. And I hope you're clear on what type of a profile the person would be to buy this car. Would I personally buy it? The answer is no. I'm just not that type of a person who likes the character of this car. After building connection with it, now I can tell my character is not well suited for this. I am more suited for luxury SUVs like BMW X5, X3, Audi Q5, Q7, that kind of stuff. So I hope that's clear. And my final feel score for this car is 6 out of 10. I think it's a very unique, iconic car. It's not the best comfortable car for commute, but it's certainly the car has a lot of character in it, and there are not that many cars on there, right? A lot of cars are very blended. Okay, I hope you liked this review, you found value, hit the like button, subscribe to this channel, and I'll catch you in the next video.